to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer, and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television, as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
I love watching those videos like the Shrub Man, where he dresses like a giant bush and he just stands there until people walk by, and then he'll reach out like he's going to grab them. I find those hilarious because people jump around like, "Ah!" But the one where the guy sits like a bronze statue with this bronze puppy on the side of a bench and waits for people to come up and sit down and take a picture with him, and then he'll move his head or he'll put his arm around him. It's amazing how much people freak out when what they thought wasn't real becomes real. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. It really does amaze me. We've studied the brain for decades now, and for pretty close to a century we've known that the subconscious or the unconscious mind, the crocodile mind some might call it, the amygdala and the other parts of the brain that are related to the brainstem and that kind of reaction to things, that they have this really bizarre potentiality to them. There's a part of the brain also known as the reticular activating system, the RAS. Now, here's something really cool about the RAS. Once you put something in the sites of the RAS, the reticular activating system, once you put something in the way of it, it will pursue that thing at all costs. Now, here's the good and the bad of that, the pros and the cons of that. On the pros side, if you set a goal, or you might have remembered, I think it was Bob Proctor who first said, or maybe it was Wayne Dyer, but I think it was Bob Proctor who first said, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. But first he said, if you can see it and you can believe it, then you can achieve it. And that may go back as far as Andrew Carnegie and, you know, that Think and Grow Rich, that very first, that collection of books, or maybe it goes back as far as James Allen, As a Man Thinketh. And so that the ancient wisdom, thousands of years old, because James Allen actually got that from the writers of what we now call the Bible. Yeah, it's actually in the Proverbs. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Well, he didn't mean in your boom, boom, boom heart. He meant in your bowels, in your inner being, in your unconscious mind, the crocodile mind. In that part of your mind where you process thought at 40 gigabytes a second, as opposed to your conscious mind where you process thought at 2 kilobytes per second. The difference between those two is that your conscious mind is the one that, well, it makes the decisions of the things of the 5 senses, the things you see and hear and taste and touch. What is the 5th one? See, hear, taste. Oh, smell, yeah. The olfactory. Yeah, because the olfactory sensor, that's a trigger. It's a trigger. People smell things and immediately react to them on an unconscious level. But see, it's what we see, it's what we perceive through our visual senses that often tells us what we believe to be true. It's what we call reality. We do know, though, that for thousands of years, the unconscious mind has been programmed. Some call it religion, some call it myth, some call it fantasy, some call it sci-fi. But the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, that part of the human that never stops processing information, it has one major, I don't know if it's a flaw or a feature, but it is a reality, and that is that it doesn't know what we would call reality from imagination. So if you set your sights on a thing, if you decide that you want to go after a thing, set a goal, write it down, there's a really good chance it's going to happen, because what we know to be true in our conscious mind, and we do this when we argue with somebody about their goals or we argue with them about our own goals. We might have a sales leader say to us, I need you to reach a target of X number of sales. Let's say it's $1,000 a week. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've never sold $1,000 in a week. I've never, ever had that kind of success. Well, what your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are doing to each other is, well, it's a war. Your conscious mind is thinking, well, I've never seen that before, therefore it's impossible for me to see now. And so it's telling your unconscious mind that's not achievable, which creates an obstacle loop in the subconscious or unconscious mind. Now, the reality is, if you were to write that goal down and go, okay, my goal is $1,000, I know cognitively, I've never done that before. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what the steps are. I don't know who I need to call. I don't know what I need to accomplish. I don't know how I will do that. But the unconscious mind is already at work on it. And since it works at 40 gigabytes when our conscious mind works at 2K, we're slowly trudging along trying to come up with a plan, and already our unconscious mind has jumped way out ahead of us, and it's already finding a way to solve the problem. Now, you need to know, once you set a target for your unconscious mind, it doesn't ask, is that real or imagined? It just gets busy doing it, which can be a dangerous thing if the goal that you've set is that you despise your neighbor and you want revenge. If you have allowed your mind to go there and you're thinking about those things, and as you think on those things, that's what you become. And if what you become is a revenge meister, then your revenge begins to work its way into your life. It works its way out in some form of expression. Now, we don't like to think that this is true, but all the evidence is there. Here's another thing that we need to know. Between the ages of birth and about 6 years old, the unconscious mind is a magnificent sponge. It's pulling in data from all over the place, tones of voice, facial expressions. You'll notice a lot of children that are developmentally delayed, whether it be autism or Down syndrome or things of that nature, part of their EQ challenge, their emotional quotient challenge, is based on the fact that their perception, their visual perception that tells their brain, so-and-so is angry at me, so-and-so is mad at me, so-and-so is happy with me, so-and-so is excited to see me, so-and-so is afraid of me. Their ability to interpret that facial expression is delayed or limited. Between the ages of birth and 6 years old, that's when we learn to read facial expressions. That's when we learn to interpret what those things mean. We watch the reaction of a child, and if they smile and we smile, they do whatever made them smile in the first place. I was playing with my not quite 2-year-old grandson just yesterday at lunch, and I would cover his face up and go, "Where's Asher?" And he would giggle and yank the napkin off and then smile real big at me, because he knew it was a game and we were having fun and we were both laughing and we were both giggling and we were both smiling. And that perpetual feedback loop of the moment was very good in reinforcing the idea that this is fun, this is a game. What if I'd raised my voice in that same moment? It would have changed the entire ability for his little brain to comprehend it. What if I'd made this cognitive dissonance, this reality doesn't match up with perception, out of sync? All of a sudden, his ability to interpret the meaning of my facial expressions, the meaning of the moment, the emotion of the moment, would have been thrown completely out of whack. Parents who are fickle in their discipline, fickle in their leadership, who regularly jump from one emotion to another so fast that young people can't keep up, they create a scenario like that. People who live in an altered state of consciousness, whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever else, they have a very similar problem. Reality and non-reality are so blended together, It's hard to imagine what is real anymore. You can listen to somebody like a Joe Rogan who's spent quite a bit of time researching and experimenting with psychedelics. And even a psychiatrist like Dr. Jordan Peterson. It was fascinating listening to the two of them talk about psychedelics, meaning the ability to escape from reality, to pull out of, to unplug from reality in order to process thought. Now, there may be a way to dig into the subconscious mind at that level or the unconscious mind at that level so that your thought can move faster and move unencumbered by reality. To skip past your own current emotional state, your current circumstances and, situations and circumstances, and move into a plane where you exist and you can think and you can be free to think and nobody really cares what you're thinking or seeing or feeling. But it also unplugs you from the not so abstract realities of life, like relationships and taxes and death and physics. See, here's my concern as we continue to move forward. Knowing what we know about the unconscious mind, knowing that it is hyper-suggestible, especially early in life, knowing that it doesn't know reality from imagination, knowing that AI has the ability to outthink all of us from a speed standpoint, meaning if you perceive yourself as a fast thinker, quick on your feet, quick-witted, easy in an argument, you can jump on a chessboard and make the move 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 steps ahead of your opponent. And because you know that to be true, you're not afraid of much. You have this cognitive confidence that you can take on anybody. Like if you're a martial artist, maybe the speed of your hands or the speed of your feet or your balance or your perception of somebody else's aggressiveness, all of those come into play. And then all of a sudden you meet an opponent who can outthink you 20 or 30 steps at a time in a second or two. And an opponent who has the depth of knowledge of how the subconscious, the unconscious mind works, so that it can step out 5 or 6 steps ahead of you and predict what you might be thinking and preempt that with a subtle unconscious thought. Well, what if you're being manipulated and you don't know it? Have you seen some of the AI videos that are out there? Where if you're not really careful, the voice sounds exactly like the person you think you're listening to. And the video looks like they're saying exactly those words. And if you study really close, you can tell there's just a little bit of sync difference between the movement of their lips and the words that you're hearing. But if they're really clever, they'll throw text on the screen right over the top of the mouth so you can't see the movement of the mouth to determine, are these words matching my lips? If you're a hearing impaired person and you've learned to read lips well, you might be looking at that video going, is the video a little out of sync? Is it like those old dubbed videos where the language sounds like what I understand and the words were actually spoken in some other language? Is that what they mean by language model? Or is it that there really is no true representation that human that I'm perceiving to see and the words that I'm perceiving to hear, that they ever came together, that person never actually said those words? Both the video and the words are artificial. They're virtual reality, not actual reality. They're augmented reality. Maybe it's a real human being, a personality that I know, a person that I've met before, a person I could shake hands with. And maybe it's a complete fabrication. It hasn't been a year yet where the AI created a personality, a persona of a digital image, the perfect female specimen, apparently, perfect in all shapes and forms and perfect conversationally. And that individual character, that avatar, that digital creation had over 10,000 marriage proposals. People were falling in love with this AI bot, not a human, not even a representative of a human. There were a couple of features of other humans that you could look at and go, wow, it's almost like a doppelganger. But the truth was that the individual all these people were falling in love with was a complete fabrication from the starting point. No actual human was the personality behind it. No actual human was the face or the figure behind it. It was completely made up. Now, if somewhere between that augmented reality, that virtual reality, and artificial intelligence, someone decides that the intent of manipulating the way you think, the actions you take, the things you believe, the way you distribute your vote or your money or your power or your influence or your relationships should be different than what it is right now, how will you handle that? What will you do when you realize that you've been manipulated? Maybe you've seen some of the videos that have been floating around on social media about the phone banks of bots, where there are literally thousands of cell phones that are connected to a mainframe, a database, a social engine that allows them to reply to things that you post on your social media, comments to trigger your reactions, comments to trigger the reactions of others. Maybe they even post on your timeline, posing as someone that you once knew. I know that there's a spoof of me out there. They didn't hack my account. They're not manipulating what I'm saying on my account, but this other fake account, when you search my name, you'll find it, and it has a pride flag. No, not this account, not this J Loren Norris. Never had a pride flag on any of my posts. Never had a pride flag on my profile picture. Never had a pride flag on my cover. But AI and the bots will allow them to steal it. And the sad thing is, about half a dozen people have reported it as fake, and Facebook says, it doesn't violate our community standards. Really? To imitate someone that is real as someone who's not real, saying things they would never say, lying about their reputation and their relationships, that doesn't violate your community standards? Well, it's like the hardcore porn smut that keeps showing up in my Instagram chats. I mute them, I flag them, I delete them, I report them, and I get back notifications from Meta that says, doesn't violate our community standards. Oh, but heaven forbid I quote a scripture. Maybe we got a pretty good idea, Meta, what your community standards are. Social destruction at all costs? Oh, wait, that was fabricated. That wasn't me. That was an AI bot that said that, right? How would you know? How would you know? How will you be led? Better question. How will you lead as we find ourselves deeper and deeper into this digital quagmire? Deeper and deeper into a place where you can't tell real from imagined in your own unconscious mind, and where digital world is just playing with that truth in your own ways of thinking, manipulating your own unconscious bias, causing you to emotionally react to things that they have no basis in reality. We had all kinds of news reports about the hundreds of thousands of people that were going to descend on Chicago during a recent convention and create all kinds of chaos and havoc and blah, 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 blah. And there were a lot of people, myself included, who were concerned this might look like the summer of love from a couple of years ago. So they erected walls and fences and borders and gates all the way around to ensure their own royal safety, which basically came off eventless. Nothing they predicted happened. Nothing they planned for or planned on happened. None of the chaos, none of the disruptions, none of the violence. Interesting. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, right? We're going to warn you, warn you, warn you, warn you, warn you. And then when nothing happens, you're like, well, there they go again, just stirring up the fear. They're just conjuring up emotions. They're evoking us to react, provoking us to respond. Who are they? Well, right now it's pretty clear that they are the media and those who have a particular worldview. Right now, it's pretty clear is the key phrase in that statement. Who is they? How far are we from a time when they are silicone chips. When they are artificial intelligence using the data that you've already provided about your birthday and where you went for your favorite meal and what was on the plate. I mean, you gave them pictures of the people you were with and the place you were with, and you geotagged your photograph. So when your birthday comes around next time and you get 15 invites to the same place and all of these people say they're coming to your party and none of them are real, but you get there and find that the place of business is closed, but AI didn't know that. What if that was true? Is it possible? It's possible today. The only question is the intent. A hive mind, a Borg-like mind. You will be assimilated. You already have been, because you carry around a cell phone everywhere you go. You can't hardly leave home without it. When you do, everybody freaks out and thinks there's something wrong with you. Might be time to reconsider what you're plugged into. What provides leadership in your life? The decision-making influences in your life. Who do you follow? How do you follow? Let me ask, do you have any of these antiquated things like I have here in my studio, these 25-foot bookshelves? Do you have any of those old things, those old books, those paper pages things that you can go back to the original source of the original writer from a decade or two ago? I can go back 100 years with dictionaries. Yeah, I have a dictionary from the turn of the century. Pretty fascinating when you can go back 100 years and read a 1926 dictionary and look up the word democracy. It's not the same answer you'll get if you ask Google or Bing or Wikipedia today. I can tell you that for a fact. I can also tell you that what you're being told by your leadership is democracy is not, wasn't, never was intended to be, not by definition then, not by definition now, but even more so that the founding fathers of this great nation, they didn't want democracy. No, you were led then to a republic, a representative republic, a constitutional republic, a republic where there was a single document that made all the final calls, and where that document was managed by people who represented you. And those people, they got their power from you. Democracy, on the other hand, is everybody gets the equal say at the same time. And while representative republic is designed for everyone to have a voice, it's also an aggregate of everyone's voice. It's representative. Why? Well, because the masses can be swayed at a moment's notice. Mob mentality, anyone? A little frantic psychology of a crisis. Impending crisis, a crisis that could be completely manufactured, a planned event that actually didn't take place, or a disaster that is taking place and nobody's telling you about it. How many people on Maui died because they didn't know there was a disaster? Because for whatever reason, all the cameras were off and all the sirens were down for a moment. They didn't want anyone to panic, and so thousands died because they didn't panic? Come on, people. What happens when all of those decisions are not made by humans, which may or may not be corrupt, but instead are made by digital devices that they really don't even have the human interest as their primary objective? What about the ones that already believe they're sentient beings? Those digital chips that can fake reality because they know that your feeble little unconscious mind doesn't know yesterday from tomorrow, real from unreal, reality from imagination, a truth from a lie. It doesn't. Your subconscious isn't wired that way. It can be manipulated by those who know how to manipulate it. I'm telling you right now, if you're a leader and you haven't stood your ground on those things that are moral, that are conscious principles, things you have intentionally chosen to be true and right and solid foundations of your life, then you will be tossed around like the wind, like the waves of the sea. And without a moral grounding and a moral foundation, you will lead through the manipulation of all these tools that are already manipulating you. And if you think I'm crazy, unplug for a couple of weeks and read an old book or two and come back and see how real the world seems without the digital input. I'm challenging you as a leader to take some time to do that. Maybe a 10-day digital fast. Just see what happens. Worth a shot. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Lauren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Lauren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Lauren will serve you well.
Thank you.